Hello, I'm Janine Dimple, and along with Judith Morris and Patricia Whitman, we're going to work with you to implement the required coaching phase of the Administrative Credentials Program. We have purchased Thomas Crane's book, The Heart of Coaching, to be our handbook and guide for training coaches. We selected this book because it is based on transformational coaching and ties in with the Department of Organizational Leadership's philosophy of leading. We have also scheduled video teleconference sessions that will provide an opportunity for us to discuss in detail the coaching strategies and expectations of the program. We are basing our approach to coaching on concepts of transformational leadership. As the coach, your role is to facilitate the candidate's growth toward becoming a transformational leader. At the end of the 2-year experience, it is hoped that the candidate will understand and use transformational leadership strategies in their work. Our candidates will demonstrate that they can set clear directions for maintaining or creating a quality educational program. As a transformational leader, the candidate shares and inspires a shared vision, is creative, and encourages innovation. Our candidates understand that leadership is about mapping out where you need to go as a team or an organization, and that their leadership behavior must be dynamic, exciting, and inspiring, and your efforts as coaches must help the candidate hone these skills and achieve the California Professional Standards for Educational Leadership, the CAPSULs. We will use transformational coaching concepts from Thomas Crane's book, The Heart of Coaching, 4th edition, to renew and build your transformational skills. Note the design of the arrow as it loops back on itself. This structure represents the 3 phases of transformational coaching, and I will discuss each phase. The phases are also discussed in Chapter 3 of the text, beginning on page 43, and they are the foundation phase, the feedback loop, the forwarding the action phase. In the next slides, we will explore each phase and discuss the skills needed in order to be a transformational coach. Phase 1 of the foundation of the Heart of Coaching is about creating relationships. Transformational coaching requires a foundation of trust and shared expectations, laying important groundwork for what is to be expected in the coaching process. Creating a relationship with the candidate begins with the first point of contact, deciding upon the best time and place to meet so that a good impression is assured. Although more and more of our ULV students rely on technology to communicate, we ask that your initial meeting be face-to-face and in a comfortable setting. During this first meeting, determine the candidate's perception of the coaching experience. This will become an important discussion because you will be able to dispel any misunderstandings. You must assure the candidate that you are not an evaluator, you are not a boss, you are in the true sense of the word a guide and support system, and yes, a cheerleader. Also, by clarifying your role and defining for the candidate the meaning of transformational leadership, you establish for the candidate the department's program goals and expectations. Prior to making your initial contact with the candidate, both of you will have taken the Keirsey Temperament Sorter and the Personal Value Statement assessments. And these 2 instruments establish a personality value profile that will help both of you discuss how you interpret the world around you. The data from these instruments will give both of you topics for discussion. For instance, you may compare and contrast the way you and the candidate view the world, how the 2 of you prefer to lead others, and the kind of decision makers you tend to be. The results of the two instruments will help both of you launch the coach-candidate relationship. The data from the candidate's profile will provide for you long-term criteria for observation. The overall information from the instruments will help you facilitate the candidate's strengths and redirect those areas needing change. Your task is to be honest and straightforward so that you begin building a sense of trust. Together, set norms that will provide for working and communication parameters that both of you may review and revise as needed. Make sure that the following are among the norms you and the candidate establish. First, have them keep a commitment for time. Attend fully when you are communicating. Phones and family distractions off. Emphasize the candidate's role in taking responsibility for completing tasks and assignments. And emphasize that the candidate is responsible for honing his or her time management skills. Through our training, you will be reminded to check for understanding and to listen closely to what is being said. Be sure you both are communicating clearly. This will move you closer to building trust. And during this first meeting, establish a calendar of dates for future meetings. To assist in the coaching process, you will receive a WebEx video conference account for your use. This account will be in effect after you and the candidate meet with the mentor and have formalized the individual induction plan or IIP. Again, we require that the initial meetings be arranged at the worksite so that you may observe the candidate within the environment in which he or she works. Connecting. Connecting is the first stage in the building a foundation for coaching. It is described as building rapport between the coach and the candidate. This means the coaching relationship usually addresses very confidential and personal matters the candidate wishes to share. And as an experienced professional administrator, you know the importance of this step. This is a critical step and may take a long time to truly achieve. In real estate, the mantra is location, location, location. In coaching, the mantra is time and trust, time and trust, time and trust. Setting course and great expectations. You have made the initial connection. Set the agreed upon norms and ground rules that you and the candidate will follow. You are on the road to building trust. So let's explore the next concept in Thomas Crane's work. Setting organizational course and great expectations. Now that you have spent time with your candidate and have met the candidate's mentor and understand the district's vision and mission, you and the candidate are ready to explore the meaning of the acronym GREAT. Goals, roles, resources, accountability, time frame, and empowerment in the context of where the candidate fits in the larger picture the district has presented. This also becomes criteria for your work when meeting with the candidate while listening to the candidate's perceptions of various situations he or she will encounter. For example, do the identified professional development experiences help the candidate achieve the goals established in the IIP? Does the candidate fully understand his or her role as administrator as it relates to school and district goals? Does the candidate fully understand how to form a coalition of support among the staff, teachers, parents, and the community? Does the candidate fully understand how to acquire resources to support the school program? Does the candidate fully understand the breadth and depth of their accountability to the school, staff, teachers, parents, and community? And does the candidate have an understanding of time frame, planning, due dates, and management? And finally, does the candidate apply transformational strategies and empower others? Observe, the third key item of the foundation phase. You are required to make on-site observations of the candidate. Use the GREAT criteria for making these observations. As you make these observations, take notes. Coaches need data on which to base their coaching. The challenge for you will be to gather this data as objectively as you can. Subjective data is almost always a distortion. Remember, you are to use the data for the purpose of teaching new skills, attitudes, and behaviors. You want them to step back and see the situation differently. As you analyze the data prior to delivering the feedback, make sure you have eliminated as much as you can assumptions, moralizing comments, or judgmental comments. Collect your thoughts and develop and prepare to assume the coaching stance. Remember, you are the on-site teacher, and you are modeling the behavior that you wish to have the candidate adopt. Do not take on the responsibility of fixing. Take on the responsibility of coaching and helping the candidate discover the behavior that needs to improve. Secondly, within this part of the loop, you will focus on describing behaviors, the impact of the candidate's behavior on relationships, including yours. You'll discuss results and outcomes as they occur because of making changes or not making changes. You'll reinforce the progress being made by the candidate and also check to be sure that the coaching process is helpful. You'll work with the candidate to identify opportunities, even those that appear to be negative. This stage in the coaching will depend upon the level of trust the candidate has for you and the permission the candidate has given you. You may have to discuss issues that may feel a bit uncomfortable. This level of coaching will require you, the coach, to always be psychologically attuned and connected to the candidate's emotional intellect. Each session should begin with a statement, "Let's debrief." Tell me what's on your mind. I want to hear from you. By making this a norm that the two of you establish early on will facilitate an effective loop experience and a constructive learning and change. The third step in the loop will emphasize asking learning questions to explore experiences and beliefs. For instance, the comment, "Let's debrief." I want to hear from you. I want to hear and know your point of view. The next communication should be, "Tell me more about that," or use Carl Rogers' approach and state what you have just heard from the candidate and then ask, "Did I understand the point you were making?" Put the candidate in the position of needing to clarify. You listen, and listen. Do not be eager to respond. Refrain from giving advice. Most of the time when the coach jumps in to give advice, it shuts down the learning or the teachable moment. Always keep in mind your purpose. As Thomas Crane states, your purpose is to reinforce, enhance, or develop the candidate. Given the dialogue of your situation, your purpose may be one or all of the words that make up the acronym RED. The fourth step in the loop is the most difficult of all. Listen. Listen. Reflectively listen to truly hear what the words really mean. Listen and listen. Yes, as Thomas Crane has asked us to do, listen emphatically. Remember, your intentions are RED. Do I reinforce? Do I enhance, or is this an opportunity for development? Above all, practice the art of listening and model this vital leadership skill for your candidate. Step 5 on the loop. The feedback loop concept is structured in such a way that trust between the candidate and the coach must be established early on. The coach must check frequently to assure that the trust level between them grows and remains constructive. The coach and the candidate must be held accountable for what they are trying to achieve in terms of improving skills and the understanding of transformational leadership. The coach and the candidate must feel that they have co-created a constructive level of trustfulness so that each party feels that they have lived up to their commitment and appear to be achieving the intended outcomes. Let's pause now and take an intermission before moving on into another deeper aspect of the heart of coaching. Please read chapters 3, 4, and 5, pages 43 through 87. Take notes and have them available for the next scheduled webinar. The coach, candidate, and the mentor have worked to establish and monitor the individual induction plan. This plan will focus on the personal and professional growth needs of the candidate. Because the mentor has given input to the development of the IIP, he or she has no doubt included district goals and objectives related to leading the instructional program. The mentor may have included finance and site management items for the candidate to focus on. You and the candidate will now enter into what Thomas Crane calls the forwarding the action structure. This means that the coach and the candidate will focus on achieving the intended outcomes of the IEP. Crane brings to mind an important psychological aspect of human behavior when he reminds us that inertia can set in as the candidate moves forward in implementing the IIP. Because of this potential, and because it is great, the candidate may lose focus. It is incumbent upon the coach to help stave off this situation. Combining the strategies from the feedback loop, the coach and the candidate must refocus on the shared vision for success. Open and honest discussions must take place. Use questioning and listening strategies to make it clear to the candidate that this is his or her IIP. Restate your role. If new norms of collaboration are needed, reset the list. Solicit and suggest options. As you and the candidate have moved along in your relationship, the candidate may see things from a different perspective and want to offer ideas for improving the IIP or the coaching-candidate relationship. This becomes an empowering moment. The coach encourages the candidate to express ideas, to think critically, and tap into his or her creativity. The role of the coach is to ask what-if questions, to make sure the candidate is thinking clearly and effectively. It is appropriate for the coach to ask and receive permission to make suggestions. This is where your experiences come into play. Share ideas and present options. Another step in forwarding the action requires specific changes. After you and the candidate have refocused and set new norms, clarified and solicited options, and you do not see signs of forward movement on the part of the candidate's performance, you may do the following. 1. Inform the Department of Organizational Leadership's program director of this situation. 2. Continue to solicit information and check with the candidate for understanding, including revisiting the coaching and candidate relationship. And 3, it may be that the program director will need to assist as needed. The next step in forwarding the action: require changes and clarify consequences. And although Thomas Crane speaks to this part of his structure as coachee-manager relationship, we will use the strategy to offer both the coach and the candidate a humanistic strategy for saving face. It is often hard to determine the overall behavior of an individual. The emotional elements that influence relationships is unpredictable. Sometimes in certain situations, it becomes necessary to change direction, to change coaches, and for the candidate to decide on their next steps. Debrief and offer support. This strategy is important regardless of the situation. Always arrange for a debriefing session. As you and the candidate come to a parting of the ways, positive or negative, it is important, and I consider it to be vital, that you and the candidate have a debriefing session. This should be done face-to-face. If the coach or the candidate both request a third party be present, they should agree upon who that might be and make arrangements for the meeting. The meeting should be a mutual questioning session. What worked well? What needs to be improved? Are easy and harmless questions. Under no circumstances should blame or accusations be expressed. Wish one another well and offer support. Well, we've been around the loop, and to summarize, meet the candidate, that's the foundation stage, and establish a connection. First step in building trust. Enter into the feedback loop, and remember to be present. State your topic, share your positive intentions, and ask and check for permission to enter into the candidate's personal and psychological space. Share feedback with objective data by describing behaviors and the impact on relationships. Reinforce their progress. And forwarding the action. No matter what your candidate's level of performance, you will accomplish this intent throughout the process of coaching. 1, refocus on the shared vision and success. 2, solicit and make suggestions, both positive and negative. And 3, request specific changes, use objective data. And 4, require changes and clarify consequences. Always arrange for a parting conference and keep it positive. We will use Thomas Crane's book to create a transforming coaching culture. Lessons will be available in the Blackboard classroom.